Imagine being judged solely by your cultural identity and not your personal identity, or your personal identity without your cultural identity. How would you feel? Just think about it. Good morning. My name is Bhavish, and just like many of you, I find myself wondering on how much of me is actually judged and based by my cultural identity, how much by my personal identity, and how we can possibly find balance between them. So today, I want to dive deep into this thought-provoking topic so we can all learn, and I can give all of you a proper understanding on the impacts of getting judged by either identity, as well as to share my insights and also give impactful tips on how to actually balance our two sacred identities. But before I begin, I want all of you to answer this very simple question. Which of the two identities is important to you, or are both identities important? So first, let us talk about the impacts of getting judged by your cultural identity. Actually, no. Let's do personal identity first. No, what about cultural identity? No, personal identity. I can't choose. You know what? Let's do cultural identity first. Many people make assumptions on other people based on their culture and miss out on the individual characteristics like talents, personal interests, and even values. For instance, in my case, I get judged a lot by my appearance. By my friends, which is awful, and I'm sure all of you know that. They would say I'm dark in color, or they would just start stereotyping me based on my culture and country. But the most annoying thing is that they'd keep on aggravating me by repeatedly judging me like this. And look, if this happens to anyone, just take my mother's advice. Either ignore them, don't take whatever they say about you into your mind, or you can say a defensive sentence like, why don't you look at yourself? Or, this point I'm about to tell right now is more specifically for the students and teenagers. What is a thing that you're very scared to do to your friends or you don't like to do to your friends? Can anyone have a guess? Snitching, or in simple words, telling on people. Look, even I was scared to snitch on my friends, but it actually made my life a lot easier. So let's continue with the points. When a person is getting repeatedly judged by their cultural identity, they could feel isolated and not in contact with the outside world, as well as lead to confusion and a weakened sense of self. This is because there won't be any recognition for the individuality and therefore all those points. This action also could, actually no, will have a major impact on social relationships, but mainly with friends. Lastly, there'll be a deep downhill of self-confidence as individuals will begin to question their worth in the outside world, and who wants that? So now, it is time to place our minds on the impacts of being judged by a personal identity. When one person is getting judged by, I completely forgot to talk about the positives for getting judged by your cultural identity. Sometimes people can talk about other people's culture in a positive sense, and the result gives people cultural pride for the country and the culture they follow. Being recognized by your cultural identity also produces a sense of belonging, which is actually a really good feeling. Furthermore, this also helps build and strengthen ties among individuals from the same cultural background. This also helps celebrate many different countries and diversity, just like International Day. This very important time of the year helps, as I already said, celebrate many different countries and diversity through food, dance, specific events, and definitely more. But the most important thing is that these celebrations help promote mutual respect that people need in between them, and also create a proper understanding among different groups. So not only is being judged only by your cultural identity negative, but also positive in a few ways. So now, it is time to place our minds on the impacts of getting judged by your personal identity. When one person is getting judged only by their personal identity, there would be a recognition of individuality. This encourages a sense of freedom without having to be confined by societal or even cultural expectations. You also get to define who you are without being influenced by what other people say, and make decisions based on your dreams and goals. Furthermore, you can concentrate on discovering your strengths while also start improving yourself without facing any extra pressure from your surroundings. And now, do not forget this point I'm about to tell you all. This is for people from all ages. If you worry about not having friends or even being unable to make proper friendships, if you find anyone who values you by your personality, try to be friends with them right away. Lastly, there will be a boost of confidence and independence of a person. You will just be able to live according to what you believe you are, not based on your culture and country. At first, I thought there were only positives for being judged by your personal identity. But after full research in this topic, I also got to know there are also negatives on this. How interesting. Oh, sorry about that. I went into a deep thought right there. Let's continue. In my case, I get teased and bullied a lot by my cultural and personal ties by my friends who may be different to me or I am different to them. So right now, how many of you in this room can tell me that you are different to me? And how many of you between us can say there are similarities? I already gave you an example of how I get judged and teased by my cultural identity, so I don't want to bore you with another. So I'll just give you an example for personal identity. In terms of talents, a very big interest and passion, there's one thing: music. Whenever I start singing, people and friends just start laughing at me, and I seriously have no idea why. I just focus on my singing and ignore whatever is happening around me. This is the same with any other hobby, whether it is art, people may laugh at your art, maybe they just don't really like it, or drama, acting. They may just try to discourage you. Now, moving on to the points. Isolation from culture. You may feel disconnected from your cultural heritage, traditions, and values from your cultural background. Shockingly, there'll even be pressure when you have to prove yourself based on your talents and achievements. And do you remember when I said being judged by your cultural identity helps build and strengthen ties among people from the same cultural background? It is complete opposite with personal identity. This can weaken the bonds you may feel with people from the same cultural background. But the worst thing is that any mistake you may make or you didn't even make may be seen as entirely your fault without any single consideration from cultural challenges and behaviors. Another reason is people may be biased and favor the other people who actually did the mistake, and they may blame it on you. All this can also lead to a narrow view of who you are by ignoring the rich aspects of your cultural background. But in short, all this can just lead to the erosion of your cultural values and traditions. So now, how to balance your both identities? As I already told you the impacts of getting judged by either identity, some of you may have got an idea of how to actually balance them, but let me tell you other impactful and significant ways on how to balance our two sacred identities. First, recognize both identities. You can take me as an example. I don't really like wearing traditional clothes that is connected to my culture, while I like wearing casual clothes and jeans that is connected to my personal interests and identity. But how do I balance them? That is the question. Even if I don't like wearing traditional clothes, I still do wear them whenever there's any Indian festivals or even occasions. And in the normal days, whenever I go outside, I wear my casual coats and jeans. So just like that, that's how you balance the two identities. Next, you should seek support from communities that are in your same cultural background, as well as stay with groups and doing activities that support your personal interests. And lastly, practice self-reflection, a very important one. Reflect on how your both identities affect your thoughts, actions, and decisions. Think if you're giving enough space for both. Now, every time my mother and I have conversations, there's always one statement she has at the end. Stay truthful and honest to yourself. At first, I didn't actually know what the true meaning of that phrase was. But after a while, I finally got to know. You do not have to conform entirely to cultural expectations and outside pressures just to be different. Stay true to a blend of cultural and personal ties. And look, I know balancing both identities can be tough, especially with annoying friends and the outside world. Am I right? But after acknowledging the importance and the impacts of getting judged by either identity, please be in relief, all of you. You can create a harmonious stability between the two identities. And I can guarantee all of you, after feeding you with positives and negatives of getting judged by both identities, there is no way, absolutely no way, you'll not give that extra effort to forge the bond and balance between the two sacred identities. See, the effort can be large or small. It doesn't really matter unless you reach the goal to find balance. Now close your eyes and listen to the last few words I'm about to tell you all. Let's all put that extra effort to forge the bond and balance between our two sacred identities. And to be honest, lead a joyful life. Thank you.